Welcome back, my friends, to the Derate the Hate podcast. I am Wilk from wilksworld.com, and thank you for joining me, and thank you to all the new listeners that are joining us for the first time. This is episode 2 of the DerateTheHate.com podcast, and today we're going to be talking about please, thank you, and the importance of gratitude. So, first things first, I just want to kind of reintroduce myself for people who might be listening for the first time. Like I said, I'm Wilk from wilksworld.com, just an average guy with an average outlook on life, looking to better the world one attitude at a time. Now, much of what I say is completely unscripted. A lot of it's just a stream of consciousness about how I've met people, how I've done things over the course of my life, and mistakes that I've made and the wisdom that I've gained from making those mistakes. Because after all, life is about making mistakes and gaining wisdom from the mistakes that we make. So let's get into it. Just like the title of this episode is Please, Thank You, and the Importance of Gratitude, I wanted to talk today about why please, thank you, and gratitude are so important. Years ago, I had considered and actually started writing a book, What Happened to Please and Thank You. It's not something I ever finished, which I wish I had, but the reason that came about was because as a truck driver, which is what I did for several years, and was a taxi driver for a short period before that, a couple years actually, but I spent a lot of time out amongst people and going into different restaurants, fast food, truck stops, this, that, the other thing, and it never ceased to amaze me how big of a difference it was, how big of a difference I felt after leaving a place, based on the way that I was treated. And in fact, I'll even go back a little bit further than that. When back when I was in the Navy in school, and on Thursdays we'd get to step out off the base a little bit for lunch with our whites on, and we'd go to a place called CC's Pizza. And every time we'd walk in, I don't even know if CC's Pizza is still around anymore, but we'd walk in and a bunch of people would yell, "Hey, welcome to CC's," and it was always a pretty cool thing, just the polite atmosphere, and then in more recent times, I don't think there's anything that better exemplifies the gratitude shown by eating establishment than Chick-fil-A, which I know likes to stir up a bunch of controversy amongst people that I don't quite understand, but with Chick-fil-A, there's nothing that better exemplifies the spirit of gratitude than the way that you're treated when you go to a Chick-fil-A restaurant, and the fact that when you go through the drive-thru, how can I serve you today? It'd be a pleasure to serve you at the window, and the way that you're treated is unmatched by nearly any kind of restaurant, let alone fast food restaurants. But going back to when I was thinking about writing that book, What Happened to Please and Thank You, I started to see a trend, and I can't even remember when it was, but when I would go to a fast food restaurant, when I'd stop for lunch, whether it was when I was driving taxi or driving truck, and I'd walk into a restaurant, and I'm not going to name any names, but there would be more people working than there was people in there eating, and it was almost like they had to argue over who was going to take care of the customer. And I got to see that way too many times, and I never could quite understand it. The employees would be all disheveled and not looking like they wanted to be there, and certainly didn't treat the customer like they wanted to be there. And I thought that was odd, and it just got to me, especially as somebody who started working in fast food restaurants when I was 13, 14 years old, and was always expected to show gratitude to the customer when they showed up, because obviously they were paying my salary, and the idea of serving them should have been a pleasure to me. So the more I got to see these kind of things, the less I went out to eat, and the less I went to especially fast food restaurants. And even to this day, I very, very seldom go to any fast food restaurants, because not only because of that, but it's just I see too much waste and quite honestly not enough appreciation for me to feel like it's worth my time to spend my money in those kind of places. And I think that's unfortunate because I think it really comes down to the way that they're run and quite honestly the way that some of the people that are working there are raised and they just don't have the appreciation and the gratitude that I think people need to have. So I got off on a little tangent there, but I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way. In fact, I know I'm not. I've talked to several people that say they feel the same way. And please don't think I'm generalizing about all people that work in fast food restaurants or anybody that works outside of Chick-fil-A, because I am most certainly not. I worked in fast food and restaurants for several years of my life, and there are some of the hardest working, best people that I have ever encountered over the course of my life, work in fast food and work in restaurants and work in the hospitality industry. So I'm not by any means trying to single out anybody or make any kind of generalization as to the way that the people in those industries are or how they have been raised or how they work. But again, what does this have to do with please and thank you? I mean, I think please and thank you is one of the most important things that can be taught to a child when they're brought up. I mean, I know my stepson, every time he wants to get up from the table, is "May I be excused, please?" And I think that's just one of the very important things that we've instilled in him as a child. And I think any time anybody, I don't care whether you're a child or an adult or whatever, if you're asking somebody to do something, I mean, I have several people that report to me at my job, and every time I ask them to do something, I don't order them to do it. I ask them to do it, and I ask them in a respectful way, and I ask them please, and I say thank you when they're done. I think that's the way that it should be done. It's very important, just out of general respect for just your fellow man, your fellow human being. There's no reason not to. And then along with that comes the gratitude. Saying thank you. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in a situation. I know anytime I get an opportunity to hold a door for somebody, when I'm walking into a convenience store or I'm walking into wherever, someplace that doesn't have an automatic door, if I'm holding the door for that person and they walk in and they walk past me and they don't say anything, I find it quite odd that somebody wouldn't even acknowledge, and I see that happening way too often nowadays. And that's just somebody that shows that they don't have the appreciation for anybody else's effort. And that tells me one big thing about them. And the thing that it tells me is they're probably not that happy a person, because as somebody who, one of the people that I listen to a lot and I've listened to for several years is Dennis Prager, and I see him as somewhat of a mentor. He's a nationally syndicated talk show host and on radio, and he talks about the fact that you can't be a happy person without understanding and being able to express gratitude, and I fully believe that. Now, not to get a lot into it, but I spent a long period of my life not being a happy person, and it was a big thing for me to learn gratitude. Not that I didn't have gratitude when I was growing up, because my parents very much instilled the please and thank you and be grateful for what you had mentality. But based on a number of things that I went through over the course of my life, I kind of lost my way and lost my ability to truly appreciate the things that I had. And with that said, I lost the ability to see the forest for the trees, so to speak. Because if you can't appreciate the things that you have, you cannot be happy. And I think way too many times and way too often, people start to get stuck on what they don't have or what they wish they had, instead of being grateful for the stuff that they do have. And that is a recipe for unhappiness. So, it really comes down to, you better be able to say please when you're looking to get something, say thankful or thank you when you do get it, and being grateful for all the things that you have, and being able to strive for what you do not have, but do not focus on the things that you do not have, be solidly grateful for the things that you do have. Because if you can't be grateful, if you can't be grateful for what you do have, why should anybody ever expect you to be happy with the things that you want to get? So to kind of take this full circle, let's just kind of look at this. Like our motto for the Derate the Hate podcast is bettering the world one attitude at a time. So why do I talk about please and thank you and gratitude is because I want everybody to realize, not only for themselves, but when they're raising their kids and when they're encountering people in their everyday lives, express to them how important it is to say please. If somebody expects you to do something and they don't say please, call them out on it. If somebody does something for you, say thank you. If you do something for somebody else and they don't thank you for it, call them out on it. And I don't mean being a jerk or a scumbag in the way that you do it, but it's something that it's almost a necessity. Because if they're not saying please and they're not saying thank you, or you're not saying please and you're not saying thank you, you're part of the problem in how we interact with each other and how we should be interacting with each other. Gratitude is so very important in being a happy person. And the more that you show gratitude, the more happy that you are going to be. And the more that you show gratitude, the more people are going to be willing to do things for you. So instill it in your kids, instill it in yourself, expect nothing less from the people that you interact with, and life will be better for everybody that you encounter. And if the people that you do encounter are not willing to play by please, thank you, and express gratitude, then that's probably somebody you don't need to be spending a lot of time around, if at all. Because eventually, that person's attitude will most likely sort itself out when nobody else wants to interact with them. Like I said in the first episode, each week I look at a lot of different articles and look at a lot of different things in the news, and most of it's all doom and gloom, but I like to look for a good Samaritan or a good deed article that makes me feel good and makes me think about something positive. And one thing I read this week was there was they considered him a biker or a motorcyclist. I believe it was in Colorado Springs who saw an elderly person going through a crosswalk and looked like that person was in some type of distress and needed a little bit of help. So that biker pulled over, parked his bike, and took the time to safely see that person across that crosswalk. So something that they would have never had to do. Something that most people may have never expected that person to do. But this is one thing I will tell you, is not all angels have wings. Not all good people dress up to the nines and go to church on Sunday. Sometimes that person that's dressed in denim and chains or leather and boots and just happens to be the angel that person needed at that particular time. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up and say, when we can, get out amongst the people again. Be kind to each other. Be grateful for everything that you've got. And remember, ultimately, it's up to you to make each day what you want it to be. Thank you again from all of us here at Wilkes World for listening to the Derate the Hate podcast.